we have a special guest who is a great friend of mine. His name is Yirim Seck, and he's going to be joining us in just a moment here. Thank you, the New Alchemist, for joining me for today's live. We are going to have an amazing conversation with Yirim Seck, who is a rapper from Seattle. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you hear me okay? Curtis, it's so nice to see you here. Auri William, thank you for joining me for today's conversation with Yirim Seck. It's wonderful to see you all creating the time for us to connect and build. Thank you so much. Please give me a thumbs up if you hear me okay. Auri, just give me a thumbs up. Curtis, just give me a thumbs up if you hear me okay. I just want to be sure that my audio is great. Perfect. Lily is here too. Thank you, Lily, for being here. Lily is part of the team at Northwest Art Streaming Hub, and she just kindly shared with us the website for Northwest Art Streaming Hub, which is an amazing platform for arts organizations and individual artists and creatives that are interested in really expanding their footprint in the Seattle community and beyond. And I see that Yirim Seck, who is our special guest today, has already joined. So I am going to loop him into this conversation here. Yirim, can you hear me okay? Yeah, just bear with us for a moment while Yirim, how are you?
Hey, what up, Simon?
Cool, man. Cool. Nice to see you.
Yes, sir. Nice to be here.
Yeah, man. It's wonderful to see you. How is your family?
Family's good,
Okay.
Family's great. No complaints there. Everybody's happy, healthy. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so a little different.
Yeah.
It's this new normal.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I know.
You just have to go with the flow sometime,
Yeah, that's all you can do is just roll with the punches. So, I'm in my Zen space.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to just introduce you to our guest today, real quick. And my name is Simon Okelo, and I'm the founder and executive director of One by Africa. But I'm also an advisory board member for the Northwest Art Streaming Hub. We have currently pinned the website for Northwest Art Streaming Hub on introduce our guest for today and then just share with you what we're going to be discussing. All right. Yirim Seck is the son of a Senegalese father and African-American mother. For Yirim, growing up in America as a young black boy with a dual heritage was a complicated mix of trying to fit in with his peers and being comfortable with Senegalese culture and background. I feel like there's an echo as I speak.
Say again.
I feel like there's an echo. Yirim, can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Okay. Yirim, Lily also said that she hears you fine. But let me try something.
It's solid.
Lily, how about now? Can you just give me a thumbs up if it sounds better? Are you there, Lily? Okay, no response from Lily. We will just proceed. So I'll just wrap reading the bio and just dive into your story, because this bio just reminds me of our relationship in the past, working together, going to Kenya together, um, and also your music, and today, just to give our audience an idea, we are going to talk about Yirim's story. We are going to talk about the Northwest Art Streaming Hub and why myself, I joined as an advisory board member. Resistance and how it has been used for resistance historically. And then we are going to talk about how artists can leverage NASH, the Northwest Art Streaming Hub to amplify their content and grow their audience. And then finally, we are going to share with the viewers how they can connect with you beyond today's conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Get at me.
Perfect. So, a lot of people see you in Seattle, but they really don't know that you have deep roots in Senegal. At the same time, many people don't know that your family is very prominent when we talk about the history of Black people here in Seattle. So could you just paint for us a picture of, during your childhood here in Seattle, when you felt that, okay, hold on, I just want to fix this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm being told that there is some speaking.
You have headphones in?
I had
Thank you for being here. Oh, Simon's back.
Yeah, Yirim, is it better now?
Much better. Yeah, the headphones are not very good with Instagram.
Okay. So we are on speaker, no headphones.
Yep.
Okay. So paint for us a picture of your upbringing in the Central District and when you realized that hip hop was something that was in you as a kid.
Say that last part again.
Like in the CD, as you're growing up in the Central District, when did you discover that hip hop is something that is vital to you as a human being?
Okay. So I've been in the Central District 38 years. My whole life, essentially.
Yeah.
And just so we're correct, you said the last part of that question one more time. I want to make sure I get this right because my story.
You don't have to be perfect.
I want to get the story's pretty lengthy, so I want to make sure that I address this the right way.
Okay.
So my family's been in the Central District for probably the better part of 70 years, 70 plus years. My grandfather came up here in the early 40s when he was out the late 40s, I guess, when he was in fresh out the military. He bought his first home, which Inye, my brother, currently resides in, who he purchased a home from before my grandfather passed, which is located on 24th and Marion, or 24th Avenue, just stepped away from where I'm at now. So our roots are pretty thick. He bought his first piece of property. He's from the South, and just continued to acquire pieces of property and eventually shipped my whole family up here, from Arkansas. So we've occupied clear on down to 24th and Columbia, and a few properties over in the Junkins Park area, so I-90 area. So I've been in the Central my whole life. My father, just stemming from that, my father, who's Senegalese, my mother married a Senegalese, obviously, so that's where the dual heritage comes from. So I kind of have a unique perspective of what it means to be dual heritage African and American, with both a Muslim side and a Christian side of the family. So yeah, I don't know if that specifically answers your question. You kind of phased out on that last part. The reason I asked you to repeat.
No problem. We'll just build on from it. We'll just build on right here.
I'm still now I'm hearing it. That's what I'm asking. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just saying that currently there's we all know that there's a wave of Black Lives Matter movement globally, and you being a hip hop artist, I just felt that you've somehow been in the center of this for a long time. And I remember when you and me and Juguna were talking about it some time back, you felt like this is just a wave that has always been there, and you grew up seeing police brutality, so it's not something new.
No. People have this conversation of gentrification, but it's not exclusively a Seattle thing.
Yeah.
This is, history repeats itself. This happens in Detroit, parts of the Midwest. I mean, you can talk to anybody from any city, and they're going to have their own story of gentrification. I think what makes the story of Seattle and gentrification especially unique in my book is because of the history of the families that were deliberately redlined. Else banks wouldn't finance them anywhere else within the city outside of the Central District.
Right.
Another thing is that Seattle is a little bit different because when I was growing up, a lot of the individuals and a lot of the mutual friends that we have, Simon, a lot of the activists, a lot of the organizers, a lot of people that we tend to rub elbows with in certain circles in Seattle. The reason that their names hold so much weight is because there is a history of activism and organization there. Their parents, grandparents, were born and raised in Seattle, and fought for whatever cause it was, whether it was equity, whether it was creating educational institutions that were built for us and by us, that had a curriculum that directly reflected our culture and who we were, access to healthy foods. Like this is nothing new. So back then there were actually almost like clans. It's almost like you in Seattle. You had the Greens, the Witherspoons, the Jimersons. Like these were all people's names that resonated. And so I often tell people, like there's a lot of people who walk up on me and speak highly of me in terms of what I do musically and what I do in the community. Is on the activism front, organization front. But I often tell them, like, I can't take full credit for that because some of that was passed down to me. Some of the respect that I get was passed down from the work that my grandfather did in the community with the church, with establishing the credit union at Mount Zion. A lot of it came from the work that my mother did with establishing the African American Academy before it was Coleman School. It was African American Academy. She was one of I believe 4 people who started that school, and they've since moved it to Beacon Hill.
Spend a little more time on her because I feel like the way you present your art as an artist is almost symbolic to the way she represents her art as a jewelry. Her jewel is as unique as your hip hop music.
Yeah, a lot of people. Unfortunately, she doesn't do jewelry anymore. She's currently reemerged and is working on a few projects at this point in order to represent or reemerge or reintroduce what she does to the community that doesn't know her. But there's a large part of the Seattle community who's very familiar with the work that she's done in the community and her jewelry. And she's had her work in some of the biggest publications, some of the biggest exhibits in museums, one of which was the Smithsonian, which was a huge exhibit. They actually presented her work there and had it on display for about 8 months. So at this point, what makes her so unique is that her jewelry is more. It's more than just jewelry. There's a story behind it. She spent years traveling all across Africa in the United States and hand selected and picked a lot of the beads that she uses. And some of these pieces are like one of a kind. Some of the beads are one of a kind. Who was made by, like, her knowledge of African culture is so extensive, it's ridiculous, and it reflects. And so each individual piece that she makes there's a story to it. There's a backstory to it. It serves a purpose at some point. It's not just a piece of adornment, I guess I would say.
Right.
But she's done a lot of work in the community as well.
Right. Now, in your car, do you have any of your music?
Yeah, I have a ton of music.
So play some of your music while I share with our audience members. Just play it in the background so that people can have a feel of some of your music. I see Chuck, the Tena, who is originally from Kenya and lives here in the US. I'm not sure where, but I just wanted to give him a shout out. I see Mari, Laura, Lily, we have 4 people on the live now. Cliff FM from Kenya as well on the live. And I just want to let you know that we are talking about the Northwest Art Stream Hub, which is our website pinned on the chat. We would love for you guys to check it out. It's a dope platform for artists and arts organizations, and it helps you get access to a lot of resources, a big network. You can stream your content the way one streamed Madaraka Festival through the Northwest Art Streaming Hub. But I just wanted to share the story of the Northwest Art Streaming Hub from my perspective. Around February, when the coronavirus pandemic started, venues in Seattle, just like other parts of the country, artists globally have lost a lot of opportunity. So NASH was started like a Facebook post. There's a gentleman by the name of John, who is a well-known producer here in Seattle. He's a white guy. So he posted, and he was just expressing that what is it that is going to happen with artists that do plays and artists that don't have venues anymore. And Lily, who is on the chat, reached out to him, and they just began mobilizing people. They were looped into the conversation through that Facebook post. And before we knew it, we had mobilized enough people that built a website, which is now serving almost hundreds of artists and arts organizations. Do you think such a platform is necessary considering the times that we're living in?
I think so, yeah. I think people are now figuring out that I don't know if this is specifically my story, but I picked up years ago that you had to have more than one stream of income. So from an income perspective, the model that they're kind of creating as far as how artists can not only reach new audiences but monetize off of the platform in terms of keeping 100% of the revenues off of the streams, keeping 100% of the revenues off of the merchandise that they're selling off of the platform. I think that's great. There's a ton of platforms out there that are essentially providing the same service, but you're not taking home 100% of your artistry. So
And you don't know the people.
real big on having access to people that I'm working with. So just to know that this is a Northwest platform and these are all individuals who are heavy in the scene and sit at multiple tables and have multiple hats and have provided multiple opportunities for myself, like for artists like myself, it's great. I think it's again, this is new. I just hope more people get hip to it.
Man, I'm really happy that you took time to research about this. Did you have a chance to create your own profile?
So I didn't go through. Wasn't able to go through the whole process just because I have a bunch of stuff going on the side here. But I'm definitely signing on. I can tell you that. And I'm familiar. I'm familiar with all these individuals who who are, who created this platform. I know I'm very familiar with Vivian. She's been an avid supporter of mine for years. I'm very familiar with Alicia Bush. She's one of the creators of Wanawari, which is another arts space that is created and ran out of one of our family properties, which was created by Enya and a few other people. So the fact that I know these individuals and I know their resume and their track history of the work that they've done here in the Northwest, and not only what they've contributed to the scene, but the opportunities that they've provided for individuals like myself, I can honestly co-sign them and push that individual sign up to this platform knowing that they're going to be taken care of. This platform's actually going to provide and do what it says it was meant to do.
Thank you. Now let's talk about how hip-hop has been used as a tool for resistance historically. From your view, do you think hip-hop has been used as a tool for resistance?
Oh, for sure. Like, music is a tool. They weaponized music a long time ago. I mean, there's a young impression.
The influence you had on hip-hop, and even Afrobeat right now, Then you think of people like Okelo, but it's almost like you're a mixture of those two characters.
Thank you very much. And it took me years to be comfortable really tapping into the Senegalese side of my story. It wasn't always easy for me to express the African side of me. So I think that now that I've become comfortable telling my story, knowing that it's not exclusively mine, because there's a ton of, there's hundreds and thousands and millions of second generation Senegalese, Kenyans, East Africans, Chinese who struggled with maintaining their identity, but at the same time trying to fit in with their peers, only at the risk of not, maintaining their identity, I guess. I was poked fun of because my skin was blacker than everybody else's. My nose was big, my lips were big, my hair was kinky. So, so for me, I think that once I got comfortable telling my story and how that affected me and who I am as an individual and how that impacted my artistry, that it kind of opened up the floodgates and allowed me to touch a broader audience. And I think that some people find courage in other people's music. They find inspiration. You're piquing people's interest. You're talking about certain topics that they may not be familiar with, and then they decide to go and do the research for themselves. I mean, for me, hip hop opened up just opened up my curiosity to a lot of things. Music is contagious, so yes, it definitely is one of the most powerful tools. The reason they try to, snuff out and mute the voices of certain artists out here, and it's even more powerful when you're making music that is a direct reflection of your reality, which is a direct reflection of really what's happening in the world and around us, and that we all see for ourselves.
Right.
And you can articulate it a certain way. But that coupled with you actually doing the work in the street and walking amongst the people,
Right.
That's when it becomes the most powerful in my book.
Right. You know, speak to us about this song that you did when gentrification was, at its peak in the Central District. You dropped a song and a music video. Just speak to us about the inspiration behind it and what it meant to you to produce a visual that spoke to that, and then the response that you received after.
So what inspired me to write that song is that, my family's been here for years. Gentrification is not a new concept. My mother, when she first used this word gentrification to me 25 years ago, I didn't really understand what it meant.
Right.
Like, gentrification, that's a big word. She then explained it to me. This was during the crack era. This is when weed and seed was happening. And weed and seed was just another version of gentrification, where they tried to justify it as getting rid of increase the property values. That way we eventually couldn't afford to live here and we would then be pushed out. I think that there's such the cultural history of the Central District is so rich that we added a certain value to we added so much value to it that we didn't know at the time. Other people wanted it. So the first time, the easiest way my mother explained it to me, gentrification, there was she called me out the house one day and the city was planting new trees. And she says to me, look, they're planting new trees. And for me, I was like, okay, they're planting new trees. She says, you don't understand. This is part of gentrification. She explained to me what gentrification was, and she goes, they're planting those trees now because they know 30, 40 years from now, we won't be here to enjoy them. We won't be sitting under them. And it really didn't hit until gentrification really started booming. And the elders started dying away. And the younger generation started inheriting these homes. Couldn't afford the mortgages or whatever, or maybe they got a great offer on the house and it was more money they could pass up. And what they thought was a good deal wasn't a good deal, and they sold these properties. And so when people have this conversation of gentrification, been here for 10, 15 years, and they say, hey, the neighborhood has changed, and I'm like, you have no idea. This was all black.
Right.
So that just taking seeing how the neighborhood changed the face of it, and then seeing how the cultural landscape slowly but surely started to get erased, I guess that's what I said. Meaning that Thompson's point of view, which was, a dive bar, pub, was bought out by Uncle Ike's. You had Dino's, which was another spot on Madison that everybody hung out at. You had the Walgreens. Before it was Walgreens, it was a big open field up here on Jackson. I mean, you see all this happening, and it happens over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, and it's slowly happening and you don't think about it. But where it really starts to affect you is when the gentrifiers, is what we call them, move into the neighborhood and you start getting treated as if you were a foreigner, as if you don't belong, as if we weren't the ones who added value to the land. That the biggest hit came when they decided to tear down the Red Apple at Promenade. People don't understand how, why that was such a big deal. Yeah, they don't understand why that was such a big deal. It wasn't them just tearing down an old grocery store. That was the one strip mall in the Central District where you could go. You had a black beauty salon. You had the Rent-A Center downstairs. You had the bank there. You had the Red Apple, which we frequented every, Sunday after church. They had the hot food section. You had all these black-owned businesses that were in there that employed black people, provided a source of income, as well as provided goods and services. You had the Western Union up there. You had the Western Union. You had a place where you could go pay your bills at. If you needed to pay your utilities, you could walk in and pay it. So this was a big blow. When they decided to tear down the promenade, people don't understand like what that represented. That meant that the neighborhood essentially was no longer luxury apartments, but that aren't financially accessible to people of color or underrepresented communities. But yet, in order for him to get around that, he said that he was providing low-income housing, I guess essentially for like a tax break or something, which was like 1/5, which essentially meant there's like 15 apartments that were accessible to individuals who were low income. So we've seen this change in real time, and then now they're throwing up PCCs and places that low-income individuals can't even afford to eat at, and everybody deserves it to eat healthy. But we essentially, aren't provided the same opportunities that will pay us accordingly to allow us to go and shop in these places. A lot of the programming's gone due to gentrification. There's no more CAYA, which was a youth football team. Garfield Community Center has changed. They started busing kids out of the Central District and shipping them to other schools further out, but yet shipping all the white people in to take advantage of the APP programs at Garfield, the sports programs that they offered. I mean, it's just gentrification goes deep.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than that. So I've seen it happen in real time, and so that's what inspired that song. A friend of mine, Notework from Alive and Black, called me up and said, "Hey man, today they're tearing down the promenade. I think we should shoot a video." It just so happened that I had already recorded that song, which was speaking about that very topic. So it just kind of it all lined up.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for creating the time to join us today, and to everybody who is viewing today's conversation on Instagram. This is also being shared on Facebook through Northwest Streaming Hub, which is an amazing organization that was started in the course of this coronavirus pandemic to become a platform that amplifies the content created by artists and to act as a resource for artists and arts organizations that do not have the capacity to produce and stream their own content, and also to boost the viewership of your own content even in YouTube. Today we talked about the story of Yirim. We talked about why I joined the Northwest Streaming Hub's website, advisory board. Then we talked about how music can be used as a tool for resistance, especially people. And then we talked about how artists can leverage the talk to Yirim so that he shares with you how you can connect with him and listen to some of his music. And also if there's anything that you want to share, Yirim, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, you can connect with me on Yirim Seck all across social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all the same. Yirim Seck, very simple. Anybody interested in some music and diving into who Yirim Seck is as an artist, you can check me out on Bandcamp. I'm all across all the streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, distro kid is who I go through. So I'm pretty much everywhere. I would encourage any and everybody to get involved. I think music is a form of revolution. I think as artists, especially artists of color, that it's important that our voices are heard. It's important that we tell our story, especially when it comes to how we are being impacted by current events and what's currently going on with the state of America. It's time. I think that we need to support more local arts organizations, this being one of them, Wanawari, Langston Hughes Cultural or Performing Arts Center. I would just say dive deep. See how you can really get involved and support those on the ground level doing the work of the people, essentially.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lily, and the Northwest Arts Streaming Hub fraternity for making this www.nwartstream.org. That's the website of Northwest Arts Streaming Hub. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and it was really wonderful to be here with you today. So have a wonderful day. Thank you.
And if